Good morning everyone, you're joining me here in Bodega Bermejo here in Lanzarote. I was passing by this morning and I thought it'd be a good opportunity to see what's going on. Our harvest is well underway here on the island. It starts mid-July usually, so we're a good 10 days in. Things are looking good. The quantity is expected to be a little bit ahead of last year, and the quality of the grape is so far is good as well. I was just chatting to Danny, the winemaker here, and I got a thumbs up from him. So things are looking good so far. So I'll give you a little tour, I think, see what's going on in the vineyard here. It's a really windy day. Do let me know if you can't hear anything. I have a little microphone which hopefully will muffle out some of the wind. So let me switch this camera around. It's been quite a long time since I've done one of these. No, it wasn't that button. There it is. Here we are. So out in the vineyard. The boys are at work. Everything is done by hand here in Lanzarote. 20 kilogram baskets. The harvest is done usually early in the morning when it's as cool as possible. The only ingredient in wine, of course, is the grape, so it's important that they return to the winery in tip-top condition. One of the rules by the denominación de origin is that everything has to be done by hand, no matter what the vineyard looks like here on the island. So it's very easy to sort out the good grapes from the bad grapes, and of course only the prime bunches go in for the winemaking. Of course, green grapes end up getting damaged, and also in our vineyards here, it's just impossible. So this is the Malvasia volcanica. It's a grape variety unique to Lanzarote. You won't find it anywhere else on Earth. 70% of our production on the island is from this one variety alone. We have 5 native varieties, incidentally. And it is the first variety collected. So these grapes here have been collected for the dry white wines, which nowadays are very, very popular on the island. Bermejo have about 20 hectares of vineyards on this site. This is Volcan Juan Bello, and this country estate was once owned by the family who that volcano is named after, the old country house which has recently been brought back to life and refurbished, and then the winery is in the vicinity right in front of us. So we'll take a little walk and see what's happening behind the scenes. So not your typical vineyards. These vineyards are well and truly volcanic. This area of Lanzarote, the La Heria region, would have once been the breadbasket of the island. Cereal crops would have grown here. The wheat, barley, corn and the likes. But then we had the volcanic eruptions between 1730 and 1736. And during that time, all of the black stuff that you see, which we call roffy or pecan, it's the volcanic ash for the volcanoes, it fell on this land. And it meant that those crops could no longer grow. I mean, here we've got sort of 20 or 30 centimetres of the ash, but vast areas of the island are covered in up to 3 meters of the ash. So the style of cultivation is a little different, and you'll see that they have dug down up to 3 meters to plant the vine into the fertile soil which lies below all of the roffy. And it's only because of the roffy or the pecan that these vines survive. It's a miracle, really. We're pretty much a desert island here. There's about 150 millilitres of rain on average per annum, in the recent years even less than that, and these vines aren't watered by manual irrigation, only by nature. And the reason why they survive is because of the ash. It traps in that moisture. We get dews and humidity at times up in this area too, and it's very good at collecting and locking that into the soils. And you'll notice that these vines are all crawling vines, and maybe it's gone a little bit quieter here because we're out of that wind. We have a very, very strong wind on Lanzarote in the summer. It blows from the north. It's called the Alisios. Actually, for winemaking it's fantastic because the cooler wind actually creates some of that freshness and acidity that we get in the in the vines, in the grapes and in the wines. And all of these vines, you'll see all the walls, they're there for a reason. They're to the northern side of the vine, and they protect these vines from that strong wind. So the vines crawl. Early on in the season you'll see them trying to climb up the walls and grow upwards, and then very soon they'll realise that it's a bad idea and will revert to ground level and crawl along the floor, sheltering out of the wind. But the holes there that you see in the walls, they're very necessary because they help the airflow and the oxygen flow through the vines, and helps protect against diseases and likes of mildew, for example. Lots of fruit trees too. Fruit trees love Lanzarote. People say that things don't grow here, but it's not true. There's lots of amazing fruits and vegetables grown across the island. So Bodega Bermejo, they started producing wine here in 2001. Wine on the site had been produced for over 100 years, but the current owners bought it in 2001 and have been investing in the project ever since. Their first year they produced around 60,000 kilos of grapes here that they turned into wine, and nowadays they have the capacity for about 800,000 litres in a good year. And our yield does fluctuate on the island quite wildly. Luckily our quality is always very high. We always get plenty of sunshine, good ripeness, but the yield does fluctuate. I mean, as recently as a few years ago we had 4 million kilos, and over the last few years we've had more like half of that. Incidentally, this year they're looking at a little bit more than last year, so somewhere north of 2 million kilos. There's all the baskets, and as I mentioned, Bermejo have got about 20 hectares, but it's not enough to produce all of that wine here. So what happens is that they buy from many farmers on the island, up to 300 in fact, and everything is controlled by the winery here. With this sunshine and this heat, the maturation happens very rapidly. It's almost a daily process of having to analyse all of those different vineyards, and the harvest is controlled and timed from here. So we can see here one of the farmers arriving with his grapes. Sorry, these guys are actually just on their way. Hopefully somebody else will turn up while we're still here. But essentially, when they arrive, the baskets of grapes will be weighed on the scales. They'll be given a ticket at the office, and then they will collect their well-earned rewards at a later date. But the first thing that happens on arrival of the grapes, after the weighing of course, is that they enter refrigeration. This is an important part. Almost got ran down live on TV then. And this is an important part of the process, because obviously it's warm in Lanzarote for the grapes and also for the winemaking process. They cool the grapes first of all to 3-4 degrees overnight, and then tomorrow these grapes will be processed and pressed, and when they're nice and cool, it will help contain all of those aromatics in the wine. So this process is now carried out across different wineries on Lanzarote. Incidentally, nothing goes to waste. They were pressing earlier this morning. This is all of the pulp, the grapes that weren't used, the stems, which will get used as compost. And one of the things that I wrote about at the end of last year, and I'm about to post an updated version of that article, lots is happening on the island, and one of the big things behind that is the price of the grapes. The grapes have jumped up in price over the last couple of years. Just last year, or 2 years ago, they were around €2 a kilo. They went to €3 last year, and this year $3.40 for the Malvasia, for example. So it is having a really big impact on wine prices, but also on the countryside as well. And really, I think in my view, it's been something that's been needed. The money will drain back to the farmer and keep Lanzarote wine heading in the right direction and ensure that we have a future. So inside the winery here, they finish pressing for the day, and the cleanup begins. These massive presses here, there's 3 of them in total, and they can do 37,000 kilos of grapes at the same time. They take about 3.5 hours to work. Maybe I come back another day and show what's going on at the time of processing. And all these tanks here, cold storage tanks, they're actually doing the initial part of the filtration of the must here at the moment. But Lanzarote wines are typically drunk young, and one of the new technologies on the island is the must bank. So it means that they can store must in these tanks for a good few months. They'll be stored at 3 or 4 degrees at a temperature any natural yeasts don't activate and begin producing wine, and it means that they can produce fresh young wines throughout the year, so ensuring that all of their wines head out in tip-top condition. So typical, we headed outside, and no one was turning up with their collection from this morning. So I think I'll pop back in a few days' time. We'll have a look behind the scenes at the press, or try and speak and get a little bit more information with some of the workers. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope that gave you a little insight into Bodega Bermejo and the harvest here in Lanzarote. So I'm going to sign off. I hope everybody has a good day. Cheers all.